Okay, testing, testing. One, two, three. Let me remove this source. All right, and we are live. It would seem, yes, it is Larsen live, May 21st. Since it is still AAPI whatever month, we're keeping up with the music of the Savage Orient. We kicked it off with Yuzo Koshiro's "Dreamer" from Streets of Rage 2. It's the Streets of Rage remake version, to be specific. I have always said, and I still say, that you could walk into any club, put on the Streets of Rage soundtrack, and you will bring the house down. Absolutely. Video game music is better than all the EDM. EDM goes to bed at night wishing it could grow up and become video game music. Speaking of Asian music, the Gentlemen of Mongolia, the Who, which I've discovered is in fact the proper pronunciation, they have released a new single, and it is absolutely outstanding. What is it? What is it that the kids say nowadays? It slaps. Yes, it certainly does slap. She's looking at me using slang. I dress and act like Clark Kent on vacation. I'm the last guy who should be using slang. I did not play it today because I did the Who last week, but yeah, I will be playing it next week, and it's a hell of a song. I was rocking out to it in the gym, and I was setting one rep maxes all up and down that place. I attribute that to the power of the Hun Rock. But yeah, now that I know that Who is the right pronunciation, we really have to figure out a way to differentiate the Who and the Who. I try to do so in conversation by pronouncing the Hugh with an overly poncy English pronunciation, and I bark the Who. It's not particularly effective, to be honest. But I don't see any other options. I guess we could just say the English Who and the Mongolian Who. I mean, honestly, it's kind of a dick move to give your band a name that's pronounced exactly the same as another band. I mean, it's like that Afro British douchebag Steve McQueen who insists on calling himself Steve McQueen. But yeah, anyway, it's time for another history lesson for AAPI month. And this is one I have discussed before on the stream. It's that whole Palo Alto High School thing. You want to know why I always say that all American history ends up devolving into your woman set up a park bench? Well, this is a shining exemplar of what I'm referring to. There is a high school in Palo Alto, California, the San Francisco Bay. It is one of the highest achieving high schools academically in the country. They were going to rename it. What should we rename it? One of the early, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? One of the early ideas was to call it the Fred Terman School. Fred Terman is, of course, a pioneer of computer science, a great American scientist, and they call him the godfather of Silicon Valley. That would seem to be a shoo-in, right? It's Palo Alto. It's got Apple and Facebook and all the, IBM and all the companies there, all the, Silicon Valley companies. Of course, I dimly remember in the 90s when Silicon Valley was a place of wonder and enchantment, not a place of, women whining about the dude bros. Out of curiosity, does anybody remember that game for the Nintendo 64, Space Station Silicon Valley? I like that game. I remember when games had like original IPs. Anyway, yeah. So you would think Fred Terman would be a shoo-in for the name of a high school, right? A high achieving high school. Well, we can't have that because he used IQ tests and humana humana humana. He was a eugenicist and basically he was Hitler. Yeah, I don't get it either, but whatever. That was the bullshit they threw at us. So then they started thinking, what should we call the school? Several names of people from the valley were, thrown about. People who were genuinely heroic. Silicon Valley, kind of San Francisco Bay residents. The next best candidate was Yamamoto High School, as in Fred Yamamoto, a Japanese American Nisei who came out of the internment camps and posthumously won the Medal of Honor fighting for America. That's a good story, right? Oh, we can't have that because Chinese and Korean people got offended because it sounds like Admiral Yamamoto, the guy who, ordered the attack on Pearl Harbor and did a lot of really bad shit in the Asian mainland. So we can't have that. So then it ended up being a bunch of bickering and nonsense, and they ended up settling on some woman who installed bike lanes in the city. Ain't diversity great, people? I mean, this is what always happens to America. We're not allowed to have any real history or real culture because, it's offensive. Real heroes and pioneers are offensive to the beigest weenies. So everything gets reduced to the lowest common denominator of, stuff that nobody really cares about, but it's not offensive. So it's always some old bag who set up some bike lanes or installed park benches or whatever. Yeah, because there's the American hero right there. Yeah, screw computer pioneers, screw war heroes, bike lanes. That's the American hero right there. Bike lanes. Okay. Pony Throat says, kids today say this musical composition is very secular. Wouldn't you say, Nigel? Uh, let's see. I mean, well, yeah, I mean, I would certainly not be the first person to describe how, Zoomers are completely dysfunctional. I mean, it really is like, I'm not the first person to discuss this, but the Zoomers are either like just these complete like decadent like Cenobite lunatics, or they're just these completely awkward like trad shows. So yeah, I really think it would be like that, Pony Throat. Okay, Pony Throat talking about the schools, says something like the George Floyd School for Low Achievers and Future Prisoners. Well, I'm sure there's going to be a few schools named after him. Like, I still don't know why, of all people, that garbage human being became like the martyr. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, yeah, let's get right to it then. Big news. There was a spree shooting in Buffalo. Some angry loser took his racist animus out on some innocent people. I mean, that is an absolute tragedy, and that's why I couldn't really make a pun about the title for this stream because, I mean, how do you make something like that funny? I mean, look, you all know what I've said about guns. If we're going to allow people to own guns, and I feel that it is a right that should be kept, then you have to be responsible and be absolutely on point with mental health services and monitoring potential security risks. And speaking of monitoring, yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. Also worth pointing out is that he specifically wrote the names of the 6 people killed in the Waukesha, Wisconsin truck killing on the barrel of his rifle. Those of you who don't remember that, and the media is trying damn sure to put that in the memory hole, that attack was a racist black man killing white people due to their perceived racism. Of course, I don't remember that one. That disappeared from the news cycle after about 5 seconds. Oh boy, that's going to be the future of America. Tit for tat race massacres, just like the pioneer days. Expect a lot more of that in the future. Ain't diversity grand? I mean, you got the bike lane like reducing all history to just beige garbage. All the while, there's tit for tat race massacres. Especially when the media basically encourages racial division and animus. And yeah, media, you do, in case any of you are listening, because I'm sure everybody listens to this show. All the news outlets are like, oh, his manifesto cites the great replacement theory that says liberals are deliberately outbreeding and outcrowding white people. Yes, yes, that's just a horrible conspiracy theory. One that you people are literally bragging about doing so constantly. Am I the only one who sees how they're talking out of both sides of their mouths here? Like, there's no great replacement. Those are the paranoid delusions of racists. But it's also a good thing that's happening because you horrible racists deserve to be replaced. And oh, by the way, did I mention that basically all demographics in America are below replacement fertility except for immigrants? Okay, got some nice comments here. Pony Throat says, I should talk about how the Buffalo shooter looked at furry pornography art minutes before committing his act of terrorism. Yes, yes, I did hear that. He may have been some kind of brony. Yes, we got to control My Little Ponies. Uh, Rick, didn't one news station talking about the Waukesha thing? Didn't they label it a parade crash? Yeah, what I saw a lot of was like SUV crashes. Like, no, it's just that SUV just got up and like just killed people. It was just like maximum overdrive. There wasn't a person behind it. Yeah, anyway, I mean, do I think America's going to be irreplaceably ruined if it becomes non white? I mean, to be honest, I think America is already irreplaceably ruined, so it's kind of a moot point. But look, if you are going to do such a thing, like, be honest about it. Like, just admit that you hate, you know, the majority population. You want them to be gone. Like, that Suketu Mehta writer, an Indian guy, he wrote that book, This Land is Our Land, where he basically openly expresses his hatred for Whitey, which is strange because he lives in America and you would think his animus would be directed towards the British. But, honestly, I respect that. I respect just coming out and saying it. I'm sorry, you cannot spend the previous 30 years celebrating, you know, the browning of America and then turn around and say, "Oh, it's not happening." You're a racist conspiracy theorist if you think it's happening. Ah, jeez. Yeah, sorry for 1 second. I got a little text message here. I mean, for the record, yeah, about this whole conspiracy thing. I mean, I do think there is something of a Goldilocks zone of diversity. I mean, just kind of spitballing here. Let's say between 5 and 20%. Okay, anything beyond that, that's you're just sowing division, and you're gonna get what America is now. Just a bunch of ethnic tribes fighting over, the geld. You're gonna get like a crappy, like lowest common denominator culture with no authenticity, no roots or anything. And yeah, that goes for any country. I mean, it's not just like a white thing or a black thing. I mean, like I said last week, every country has a right to do what it wants and has a right to decide who it wants to have. Yeah, but anyway, and of course, people are asking, like, why did this happen? Why did this happen? And we're really getting to the point where people are blaming the video, except this time they're blaming the Twitch streamers instead of the video itself. And apparently the Twitch streamers are just throwing out racism, in their videos all the time. I don't watch Twitch streamers because I'm not a nerd. I mean, I how much racism is there in like a bunch of guys doing let's plays? But I mean, I would also like to point out that hysterical old biddies attacking video games has always been just as much a left wing thing as a right wing thing. Those conservatives like Hillary Clinton, Tipper Gore, and Joe Lieberman. Yeah, the Shooter's Manifesto is interesting in that it's largely copy and pasted from the New Zealand Mosque Shooters Manifesto. The shooter also cited several websites that are alternative news sources, but for the most part are not particularly hateful and extremist from what I've seen, whether it be VDare or the UNS Review and so forth. These are websites that are not particularly hateful, and yet they get attacked a lot by the official judges of what is hateful or not. Of course, the fact that somebody like Elliot Rodger, the Isla Vista shooter, was a big fan of the Young Turks and MSNBC and other left wing news outlets, that's completely ignored. I won't pass any judgment, but I will say that the FBI has been known to essentially goad, guys like this Peyton Gendron, essentially goad like loser, mentally ill young men into doing despicable terroristic acts. Not that I am saying such a thing happened here, Susan. Okay, Pony Throat goes on to say this Mr. Gedron, or Gendron, how the hell you pronounce his name, he's the third brony mass shooter. I wasn't aware that there were more than one. However, I mean, as I did say in a previous video, I mean, the incels have really been cleaning house in terms of mass shooting. I mean, much more so than the white supremacists that everybody's warning us about. Yeah, like, incels have been like just tearing it up in terms of mass shootings. So I know, like, how much overlap is there between the bronies and the incels? Probably a fair amount, I would say. And yeah, even if you are a racist, I mean, such a crime is repugnant. Of course, I'm not, but even if you were a racist, I mean, even if I was a racist, I should say, I mean, killing a bunch of innocent shoppers is repugnant. Like, even if you do believe in the great replacement, how is killing a bunch of innocent randos in a grocery store going to accomplish anything? Like, if you're going to be a racist scumbag, would it also hurt to not be an idiot? I mean, if you're so concerned about replacement, wouldn't you want to try to target, I don't know, the politicians or the diversity grifters, the ones who actually cause it to happen? The big corporate types and industrialist types who bring in hordes of illegal immigrant laborers to work, for pennies on the dollar. Hello? I mean, a bunch of suburbanites going grocery shopping isn't really accomplishing anything. Or better yet, if you're so worried about the future of the white race, Why don't you do something constructive to help it? Like, I don't know, have a white wife and family, start a political party, help out in the community by getting, white people off the fentanyl, or, do anything other than kill a bunch of random people, you moron. Okay, Ponythroat says Randy Stair was a brony. The FedEx shooter was a brony whose last message was professing his love for Applejack. Well, Applejack is the best pony. But yeah, I mean, when you when you kill a bunch of randos, you're no better than the white people make me a loser black dudes who kill random white people, like that Waukesha guy or that New York City subway shooter. Or actually, there's been quite a few mass murderers of that motivation that nobody talks about for some inexplicable reason. And yeah, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Your average white supremacist is basically on par with the worst sort of ghetto hood rat. No job, no life. At best, I have a bunch of loser, feral kids running about as they blame some other race for their failures in life. You all deserve scorn. Yeah, the Jewish conspiracy is why I'm not a winner. Shut up. I have no hate for anybody in my heart. I don't want anybody to die in pointless spree killings like this. So, if any potential racist spree shooters are listening to this show, please stop killing random civilians. They're not causing you to be a loser. The guy causing you to be a loser is the guy in the mirror. As I have discussed, I myself had a long period of anti white racial animus that I eventually had to get over and come to grips with. And, as you all know, that in particular all revolves around petty sex nonsense. I mean, obviously, it's different for each individual person, but yeah, you got to grow up and grow out of this petty racial bigotry. Most of your problems are caused by yourself, and killing random people won't fix anything. Whether you be coming from the left or the right, and there's been plenty of mass shooters from both, progressive or reactionary racism, stop being stupid. Oh, and by the way, wouldn't you know it, the police and the FBI around Buffalo were tipped off at least a week in advance about this guy being a threat, making terroristic threats and what have you. And they did absolutely nothing. So the citizens did the right thing. They saw a potential threat and warned the authorities who proceeded to let it happen. Know how I was just talking about how people had got to be responsible if they want to own guns? Well, it turns out that the people were responsible, but the government was not. Almost as if the government covertly wants these things to happen so they can have an excuse to disarm the populace. Whoa, what am I saying? That's totally wrong, Susan. But yeah, everything I've seen shows that the FBI knew this guy had made terroristic threats in the past and did nothing. Okay, what exactly does the FBI do? And you know what's really messed up? This is not the only spree shooting this week. Yeah, it must be an election year. What? An elderly Chinese man from the mainland attacks a church filled with Taiwanese people. One dead, five injured. The man who was dead actually basically subdued the guy before being killed. What can I say but fucking communists? Well, commie's gonna commie, am I right? Anyway, there's some fairly interesting stuff in my field of anthropology, so we got a lot to talk about here, too. An experiment was apparently done with testosterone injections on men who identified either strongly or weakly with the Democratic Party. Those who strongly identified with the Democratic Party had lower base testosterone than anybody, and testosterone injections shifted them to the right, so says the study. Personally, I take such reports with a grain of salt, just like I take with a grain of salt the reports that liberals have higher IQ than conservatives, which was a pretty big social science thing that came out about 10 years ago or so. I mean, the social sciences are absolutely riddled with replication bias, which is to say they can't be replicated twice in a lot of these experiments. So I think this sort of thing needs further study. I mean, we all have a laugh at imagining, limp wristed, weak, effeminate, soy pod, lefty men. But, I'm wary of anything that blatantly supports, somebody's biases and prejudices. All I'm saying is let's do another study on this, double blind studies and what have you. Ponythroat says mass shooters virtually always announce what they're doing in advance, but nobody does anything. Yes, I have noticed that. Again, what exactly does the FBI do? Yeah, but to go back to this whole like men with higher testosterone tend to be rightward on the political spectrum. I do feel that as I've said, I was once very liberal. I mean, I still do have some liberal sympathies, but I do feel that my politics did shift a little rightward when I started lifting weights. So who knows? But as I said last week, much of my politics are like pre 2000s liberal politics. So would that count as a rightward shift or a not being a hysterical, bleeding heart titwank shift? Because I mean, as we've discussed, a liberal by 1980 standards is basically a right-wing extremist by 2022 standards. And speaking of testosterone, let's talk about Joe Biden's piss poor attempt at insulting Donald Trump. Ultra MAGA, the Great MAGA King. Yeah, that really didn't work out, Joey Jojo. Word of advice: if you're trying to insult somebody, don't use words like ultra, great, and king. Okay, this is entirely unrelated to my prepared remarks, but I'm getting a weather alert specifically saying that the air quality there's an alert, air quality alert. Let's read what that says. Okay, let's see. Air quality alert in effect from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Saturday, May 21st. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection has issued an air quality action day for the following counties: Bergen, Passaic, Hudson, Essex, and Union. Okay, ground level ozone may approach or exceed unhealthy standards. Hmm. That's unfortunate. Ah, boy. Yeah, well, I gotta bike to my students anyway, so deal with it. So I'm getting full blast of a suntan today. Okay, yeah. So anyway, back to the Great MAGA King, Jen Psaki wrote up her own little anti-Donald Trump press release explaining what exactly they meant by Great MAGA, Ultra MAGA King, whatever. She said it refers to, and this is a direct quote, hyper-masculine, tough, racist, homophobic, testosterone-fueled extremists who are dragging us back to the 50s, kicking and screaming. First of all, Jen, hun, if you want to insult people, don't describe them as being high testosterone, tough, and masculine. Secondly, I'm going to have to assume that Jen Psaki was furiously masturbating as she wrote that out. I mean, that's just straight up sexualized abuse prose right there. As the muscular, sweaty MAGA king approached the delicate flower of democracy, his ruffly pirate shirt torn to show his hyper masculine, testosterone soaked pectoral muscles. She trembled. The mewling quim of femininity's sole recourse was a silent prayer that this testosterone fueled extremist wouldn't drag her back to the 50s, kicking and screaming. Stop it, Mr. Darcy, my maidenhead! I mean, Jesus Christ, Jen Psaki. I don't think Edith Hole could have written a more pornographically rapey depiction of a sexually predatory brute. Nor do I think that, God, who was that bag who wrote 50 Shades of Grey? Let me look that up. One second here. E.L. James. That's it. Yeah, neither Edith Hole nor E.L. James could have written up a more sexualized depiction of like a predatory rapist abuser. Okay, Pony Throat says 6 months of market research, ultra MAGA, taxpayer money well spent. I don't know how much money went into like coming up with this lame little insult, but it wasn't enough, clearly. Ah, jeez. I mean, I keep saying it and I keep saying it. Like the barely veiled craving from strong liberal women for like rape porn. Like, this is the biggest joke nobody's taking any advantage of. I mean, I took advantage of it in my short story, Oh, Mr. Darcy, which was published on Terror House about 2 years ago. But apparently nobody else is. I don't know why nobody else is seeing this. The title of that story just spoke to me, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure Mr. Darcy is not, in fact, a sexual predator. I honestly have no idea. Like, I've never read Pride and Prejudice. I've never read a single work by Jane Austen, actually. My first girlfriend, she was a big fan of all that, Regency shit, but not me. The rhythm of the phrase, oh, Mr. Darcy, it sounded really good. And I do know enough to know that Mr. Darcy is a dark and brooding romantic lead, so it's vaguely similar. I mean, who else is I going to reference in the title? You know, Christian Grey, Sheikh Ahmed. Doesn't roll off the tongue like Mr. Darcy. Pony Throat makes a nice dad joke. Took advantage of it. Yes, yes. I molested it. Sorry. Yeah, as I alluded to with my reference to Edith Hole, I have not seen any Jane Austen works, either the movies or the books or anything. But I did see the film adaptation of The Sheik, which was a pretty overt sexual, sexualized rape fantasy all the way back in 1921 about a spirited English lass who is captured and tamed through the magic of rape. Ding, with apologies to Brian Zane, by a lusty, swaggering, dark and handsome Arabian sheik played by the extremely Arabic actor Rudolph Valentino. Yeah, I'll be honest. I do like silent movies, but I didn't particularly care for The Sheik. Not because it's a bad movie. I mean, it's competently made. I mean, it's very much a picture for the broads. Uh, yeah, I mean, it was very much the 50 Shades of its day. And in particular, the movie adaptation, it's like, God damn, how many times can the soundtrack use Bacchanale from Samson and Delilah? I mean, I like Camille Sasson as much as the next guy, but geez. Okay, Ponythroat says The Virgin Game of Thrones versus the Chad Downton Abbey. I have not seen Downton Abbey, but I did see Game of Thrones. And actually, the girlfriend I mentioned, she actually liked both of those things. I mean, she did get me into Game of Thrones, but yeah, I just never got around to watching Downton Abbey. Nor have I watched The Gilded Age. But yeah, you see what I'm talking about? Even back in the 20s, there were some women who were into this sort of thing. I mean, 'tis the nature of women. Obviously, not all women are into this sort of thing. I mean, the fair sex is just as diverse as the clod sex. But yeah, whoops, sorry. There has been, there is, and there always will be at least some women who are into this sort of thing, no matter how empowered society forces them to be. But funnily enough, it seems that as society forces women to be strong women more and more, and white men are demonized more and more, women oddly seem to have a deeper and deeper and more overt craving for being ravished by the muscular, savage, blue-eyed devils. I mean, just look at the list of brown lady academics who openly talk about white devil gang rape. And yeah, let's be quite honest. The Handmaid's Tale, it's basically an extended rape fantasy. I mean, those feminist protesters who put on their handmade costumes to protest Roe versus Wade, I guarantee you that they've used those costumes in sexual role play at least once. I mean, I am not that smart of a guy. Like, I cannot be the only person who sees this. You know, if Saturday Night Live wasn't totally neutered these days, they could attack this. Like, it's like, come on, this is such a low hanging fruit. Why is nobody attacking this? I mean, if SNL had the original not ready for primetime players cast, they would have knocked this out of the park. I mean, just imagine like John Belushi and Gilda Radner making a skit about this thing. That would have been a goddamn home run. But alas, nobody has the balls to touch this live wire. I mean, yeah, I wrote my little short story about it, and it got published. With all the financial benefits I get from Terror House, which is to say none whatsoever. But please, somebody do this as a skit or a short film. Like, I don't have a repertoire of performers or the talent as a film producer at my convenience. Like, please steal my idea. Just somebody make this, please. Anyway, biological science rejects the sex binary, and that's good for humanity. A stupid little article from some Princeton cultural anthropologist says. He cites the usual crap about hyenas and bonobos to explain why the human sex binary is wrong, and then jumps in with the binary causes, or I'm sorry, he says that the binary does cause the incel menace. Dun dun dun. And yeah, we'll come back to hyenas in a little bit near the end of the stream. Yes, but yeah, obviously hyenas and cane toads are not fitting in a traditional sex binary. But might I suggest that people are a different type of animal than other species? The article goes on. Of the 140 million babies born last year, at least 280,000 didn't fit into a clear penis versus vagina or vulva, model of sexual determination. Genitals and chromosomes are not reliable determinants of sex. Wow! Out of the 140 million babies born last year, 0.2% were intersex or non binary. Therefore, we have to throw out sensible gender determination for the 99.8% of babies that do fit into the binary. It's like the BMI scale. Yeah, there are exceptions for it working right, but for the majority of people, the majority of people are not Olympic level weightlifters or NFL defensive linemen. Yeah, for the majority of people, BMI does work. Okay, let's see. Ponythroat says he once used Minecraft's in-game boom system to write a non-con fiction which involved females being used as living egg sacs by giant insects. Most popular book on the server. Well, that's interesting. I'm reading the chats now. Yeah, I mean, obviously that was like what the movie Alien was about, but I'm surprised it hasn't been sexualized more overtly. Okay, Valentinus of the Forest says that he only saw my handmade an idea in meme format. Yeah, like I know, like I did say, like I cannot be the only person who says this, but yeah, I'm sure other people have said that, like, women are getting off on like the Handmaid's Tale. I'm sure, like, there's been like little memes about it. But I mean, I want to see this on like Saturday Night Live or like maybe like a short film or a comedy sketch or something. I mean, this is like such a low hanging fruit, and it's stunning to me that nobody's really attacking it. Okay, Ponythroat says that we all know those handmade protesters have never read the book, only watched the TV show, which is not much like it. I had to read the book in school. I have not seen the television show, so I can't tell you the difference between them. Okay, Ponythroat says the Handmaid's Tale would be hotter if the women were all not so homely. Well, again, I haven't seen the show, so I don't know what the actresses look like. Valentinus of the Forest says, "What you ever heard of hopology? It was that like the study of weapons? I don't know what that is, Valentinus." Okay, but anyway, while Valentinus answers that question, I will continue with my prepared remarks. I've said it before and I've said it again. The hijacking of the field of anthropology by noodle armed little weenies has been a disaster for the human race. I will likely never succeed with my goal of redeeming the field of anthropology, but let's hope for the best. Yeah. In other anthropology news, surveys show that India is apparently the most racist country on earth, with more than 40% of the people saying that people of a different race would not be wanted as neighbors. I guess that was the metric they were polling people on. As usual, any criticism of the social order in India has led to, conservative Hindutva types reeing about how the British made the caste system. No, they did not, okay? Every time this happens, it's always some light brown Brahmin asshole making the claim, then some dark skinned untouchable calls him out on it, and it just becomes a big dog and pony show of ethnic hatred and bias. And bear in mind that these upper-caste, light brown, wheatish Indians, these are the ones that end up coming to the West and send their kids to college, where some of them become diversity consultants who lecture us about how terrible and racist we are with our white privilege. You know, uh, the comedian Akash Singh, he's an Indian guy, he rightly pointed out in his stand-up special, Bring Back Apu, that, and I quote, whenever you see a guy who looks like me, Indian guy, whining about white male privilege, what he's actually saying is, I want to fuck white girls and I can't, and I feel that white men are impeding me from doing so. And I'm watching that and I'm just like, thank you. Somebody else said it. I mean, is this not exactly what I've been saying for years? This is literally Asian sex bullshit in a nutshell. I mean, obviously, I'm not Indian, but the problems of East Asians and South Asians are basically the same. And that the only one that does exist in America is petty little sexual frustration nonsense. Ponythroat says, if the English invented the caste system, why did they introduce it in India and nowhere else? Exactly. Okay, at least the untouchables admit that there is caste discrimination, probably because they're the ones who, even to this day, get it in the shorts. Even amongst immigrants coming to Silicon Valley, HR people of higher caste discriminate against the untouchables, and they fight for their rights. And good for them. You are a better man than I am, Gunga Din. Look, Indian people. I know it's uncomfortable to discuss how uh Hindu culture is to a large extent a conspiracy by the descendants of Aryan conquerors from the Pontic steppe to keep themselves on top. But let's face the ugly truth of history, shall we? The caste system goes back before the British conquest. In fact, it literally goes back before British people even existed. And back when the caste system first arose, the British Isles were full of North, painted Celts, sorry, Northing about, tooting their horns and dancing around the maypole. Which is incidentally exactly what the villainous guru says in the film adaptation of Gunga Din. Just FYI. I mean, it is absurd to claim that the caste system did not exist before the 1700s. They always say, like, caste is a Portuguese word. How could we have invented it? Yeah, what does Varna mean? What does Jati mean? It's the same thing. Just because we use the European word doesn't mean the concept was invented by the white man. I mean, I acknowledge the negative aspects of my culture, whether it be my American culture or my Chinese culture. I think you ought to start doing the same. And of course, some of the Twitter discourse on this topic was complaining, Indian men complaining about those damn Brahmin women, saying that they are the ones who go woke in the West while benefiting from their caste privilege. Uh, Question: is there any country in the world today that is, characterized by good relationships between men and women? Because, an entire planet where all men and women are dissatisfied with each other, that's just a powder keg waiting to happen. You know, in a proper society, man is the head and woman is the neck. Healthy and mutually respectful relationships between the mother and father are the key to a healthy household. And we don't have that in much of the world. As a great man once said, a George divided against itself cannot stand. Wait, no, that's not quite how it goes. Uh, all right, so I guess the chat is being stupid. So yeah, I'm gonna look up what hopology is. Yes, the study of weapons and armor. Nailed it. Etymology. Thy name is Larsen. Yeah. So vaguely related to this Indian thing, and very much related to AAPI month. I see there is yet another article dismantling the model minority myth. See, like some Asians, they're not successful, so therefore we're part of the oppressed minority cool kids club. I honestly will never understand why these people are like ashamed that Asians are successful and wealthy. In fact, on average, Asians are more successful than white people. Why would you not be proud of that? I mean, I certainly would not dispute that Asians were discriminated against in the past. So why would you not be proud of that, that you could overcome all that and be so successful? Like, I'm Chinese. I'm going to speak to my other Chinese people. Like, do you want to be back laying railroad tracks and dynamiting mountains? Is that more authentic or something? Okay, Ponythroat says that the caste system is the Achiant version of the bell curve. Its base should be brought back. Yeah, I'm not big on the caste system. I know that, like, some of the more esoteric right wingers, shall we say, they love that caste system. Like, I know Nietzsche was a big booster of the caste system, what have you. I'm not really into it, to be honest, because, caste systems lead to designated shitting streets, and I'm not in favor of designated shitting streets. So then I started thinking about why, the Asian shattering people, they hate the model minority thing. And it really is because they know that NAM minorities hate them for their success and they want to be part of the oppressed minority cool kids club. And having a minority group be more successful than the majority group, oh dear, that debunks their systemic racism nonsense. I mean, look, nobody is literally saying that every single Asian person is rich, but averages and trends exist for a reason. I mean, you're Asian. I'm sure you know what mean, median, and mode are. Oh, but if you disaggregate, then the descendants of Montagnards who came on rafts after the Vietnam War, they're not successful. So therefore, Asian people are not successful. Take that, conservatives. I mean, this is like saying, well, certain white Americans are descendants of Huguenot royalty and they're really rich. So therefore, all white people are rich. Like averages, hello. Oh, and by the way, the woman who wrote that article, she's a light skinned Brahmin woman, because of course she is. Yeah, fun fact. Both my parents were listening to my podcast last week, and she said, I'm really sick of hearing about all this white and black race baiting, stuff. Yeah, me too, Mom. I don't want to talk about it, but too bad that modern American society cramps it down our throats. I love to eschew hyphenated Americanism in the parlance of Teddy Roosevelt, but too bad the diversity grifters and the race pimps, some of whom are literally former pimps, they won't let us. Way too many people are making their money off keeping us divided. And again, Basically, every Asian problem would end if Asian men collectively became sexier, stronger, and more masculine. Because, as the fact that Asians are wealthier and more educated than white people on average shows, they have no problems beyond vague insecurity and sexual frustration. Yeah, I keep saying it, and I know that I've beaten this dead horse like to the max. Like I've beaten this dead horse into a fine meat powder. But yeah, if you have a solution, I'm gonna have to keep beating you over the head with it until you get it. Okay. But let's put that aside for now and bring back an old favorite: wages posting L's. With so much stuff going on in the world, one almost forgets the dismal state of American labor. Today, a post about a McDonald's. Somebody was murdered this morning at the McDonald's in Baltimore. Uh, and they kept working. People are being made to work their shifts after watching their coworker die. Wipe the blood off your face and get back to work, wagey. Okay, let's see. We got some chats going. Ponythroat asked, "Do my parents know about him?" Well, yeah. I mean, they don't really ask questions beyond just seeing your wonderful posting in the chat. But yeah, back to the wages. Wipe the blood off your face and get back to work, wagey. Yeah, the biggest anchor of my political beliefs to the left wing, which, I do still have some, it is my support of the labor movement. I mean, having been a wage slave myself, I have little love for ruthless managerial douchebaggery. Another wagey L. A post saying, my branch of the company was number one in sales this quarter. Management promised us a big reward. And this is what was there in the next morning. Count 'em, 4 bags of Hostess mini donuts. I'll let that sink in. Kafka himself cannot possibly have come up with something so absurd. We're number one in the whole company. Here's $10 worth of donuts. In all honesty, if I busted my hump to make my company number one in sales for the quarter and you rewarded me with $10 worth of mini donuts, I would walk across the office, punch my boss in the face, and then quit at that exact moment. I mean, even when I was working for the moving company, which is like, 10 to 15-hour days of just backbreaking labor. I mean, even then, like, they would buy us pizza and sandwiches like multiple times a week. But like this big corporation that has multiple branches, you can't even afford that. Hostess mini donuts. Well, gee, I don't understand why there's spree shootings at the office. Duh, 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 duh. Ponythroat says, "Clean up the body and get back to posting your R's, wagey." I don't know how many Chinese people there are in Baltimore, Ponythroat, but yeah, that's the basic idea. How much coffee do I have left? Okay, got some. Okay, let's get off the wagey stuff. Let's go to something a little less depressing, but still pretty depressing because we live in a hellscape. Pop culture news. Woo! The limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing. Ric Flair comes out of retirement for one last match. And despite my intro, I'm very depressed by this. Yeah, I've always had Flair dies in the ring on the death pool, so let's hope this pays out. Look, Rick, you're in your mid 70s, you have a pacemaker, you really ought to not be doing this, Nate. Yeah, see, this is what happens when you have no idea how to control your money. The man should be comfortably retired at this age, but he has to keep working because he blows all his money. Yep, save your money, people. Don't be like Ric Flair. In all honesty, maybe he wants to die in the ring. If only so in the afterlife he can kick the crap out of that woman from the Tennessee Children's Home who kidnapped him when he was a baby. Yeah, look that up if you want to read an interesting story. When he does die, They better have a sieve at his grave because every rapper in America is going to dump a 40 at his grave. Nobody acknowledges how influential white professional wrestlers are on modern African American culture. Again, except for me. Okay, Ponythroat says, does this person not know that the hard work of the wagie manifests as bonuses for the management? Uh, you know, I feel like that is what happens a lot of times. Like management just pockets the wagie, the wagie money. And say what you will about that moving company I used to work for, but they did have like a pretty good incentive program. Like the people who you know who had like the highest ratings in terms of like not damaging like the walls, not damaging the furniture. You could get like some pretty good stuff, like a motorbike, a big barbecue grill, or whatever. I got second place once, but never first place. So what the hell would I even put a big grill anyway? And yeah, I understand. Like there's a reason why like a lot of Americans just don't put in like effort at work because they're just getting stiffed either way. But I mean that's not good. Like the culture should reward those who work hard and punish those who don't work hard. I mean, like I said, the rot in America is very deep, and workplace culture is a major part of that. Alpha Marigi says, "Why is wages spelled way G? Because Ponythroat's being funny. That's why." Okay. Anyway, more pop culture news. Sports Illustrated's annual swimsuit issue is having a fatty on the cover. Yumi Nu is some pear-shaped model in quotations who has a waist and stomach bigger than her breasts, hips, and buttocks. Yeah, hard pass. The sad thing is she has a pretty face. If she's slimmed down, she'd probably look really good. I mean, look, okay, now the last time I talked about women in depth, I feel like there was a little confusion here, and I just want to clarify. I am not adverse to a lady who's a little bit thicker. Uh, I used to briefly go out with a girl. Let's call her Nicole. She was a little round in the belly, but she had whopper bazooms and robust buttocks and wide hips. Yeah, she was actually a ballroom dance instructor, which is where my very brief experience in that field comes from. But never mind that. Yeah, like that. That's like I like that. I mean, I like to point out, ladies, that that is what thick is. Just being a giant tub of crap is not thick; it's fat. Okay, can we clarify that? Thank you. Okay, Ponythroat says I'm going to turn up to work tomorrow and then blow management away with the AR-15, and then I'm going to eat some great mini donuts. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to kill people at the workplace, you might as well eat the donuts. Okay, Rick says, I once worked in a company whose profits were measured in cents. Even they gave their employee of the year a limo ride and a fancy dinner. Yeah, like this. I mean, obviously, I support working hard and I support, you know, things like that, but you got to give incentives. Like, if you're going to have a work ethic, you should also have a I don't know what you call it, like a pay ethic or a noblesse oblige or whatever. Yeah, you should reward the people that work hard. If you demand that people work hard, you should also pay well and give them incentives to work hard. But yeah, going back to the Yumi New Sports Illustrated cover, I mean, I suppose it could be worse. I mean, she could have an ugly face. It could be one of those giant lardos from those Calvin Klein billboards on the cover. Yeah, as much as I have disparaged Bronze Age pervert, he does have a point about some things. Namely, that it's a bad sign when a culture disparages and eschews the concept of beauty and aesthetics at all. Yeah, God help us. Also, in pop culture news, and actually something very positive. It's also news in the loosest sense of the word since it's about a half decade old. Like I said, I recently got a new computer and I was putting on my old files on my backup hard drive, and I recently rediscovered Jason Youngblue's Weapon Brown comic book, and goddamn, it's still as good as I remember. You people ought to be reading it because A, it's good, and B, independent comics that aren't drawn by untalented woke hacks should be supported. In general, I always try to financially support good independent works, and nowadays it's easier than ever. Whether it be movies, comic books, video games, music, get out there and fund it directly. What is Weapon Brown, you might be asking? It's a post apocalyptic story set after World War III destroyed civilization about a grizzled cyborg wasteland wanderer and his ferocious attack dog, who happened to be an adult Charlie Brown and Snoopy. Yes, it's written with tongue firmly in cheek and with pitch black comedy, the main source of humor being the bizarre juxtaposition of all the ultra violent cliches of post apocalyptic fiction, buckets of gore and blood, sexual abuse, a general feeling of death and decay, dark shadow and inking in the artwork, mutants and cybernetically enhanced super soldiers, and the fact that it's the Peanuts gang doing all of this. There's actually two stories in the collected trade paperback. The first story strictly sticks to the Peanuts gang, and then the second story, much longer, expands beyond Peanuts and literally throws in every comic strip character you could think of. The man has an absolutely stunning encyclopedic knowledge of newspaper comics, going back to like the 1890s, and he utilizes it to craft a deliberately cliched story of cybernetic warfare, post apocalyptic rot, and what remains of humanity desperately trying to salvage and rebuild what remains of the earth. And let me tell you, something of a cartoon historian myself, which is a fancy way of saying a huge nerd, I had an ear to ear smile during the whole thing. I do tend to have a bit of a malicious sense of humor, and seeing these cartoon characters twisted into mutated mockeries of themselves and living out a post apocalyptic grand guignol is hysterically funny to me. I mean, you don't even have to read the story, you can just get a kick out of looking at all the background references. I mean, hell, when you cram Mickey Dugan, the yellow kid, into something, you've got my approval. Yeah, I know this is rare for me to do, just praise a work like uncritically out of the blue, but yeah, read it. Okay, Ponythroat says Frisky Pharaohs is the number one webcomic. I haven't read it. I might have to look into that. Anyway, back to serious news, pop culture. I in an ideal world, I would just be talking about pop culture and such. But yeah, we don't live in an ideal world, so that ain't happening. But yeah, back to the real news. Let's talk about that baby formula thing. My American baby formula has a lot of garbage in it. Again, why are the most vulnerable members of society given garbage to eat? I mean, in general, you know that I always say never eat anything that has more than 5 ingredients. And that goes doubly for the wee ones. I mean, I am very concerned for the babies, and I'm not just saying that because I'm going to be an uncle by the end of the year. Even if that weren't the case, uh, I care very much about the wee children, and seeing them put onto the corn syrup crap pipeline from the time they're born severely enrages me. American food is full of corn syrup and unpronounceable garbage, and people are like, "Ugh, why are Americans so fat? I just don't understand. Her hurdy dur." But not to worry. Burp, 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 burp. The Biden administration has appointed somebody to oversee the baby formula crisis. That being Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut. And not to sound rude or something, but Congresswoman DeLauro literally looks like she has a gingerbread house in the woods that she lures children into. Yeah, I'm not lookist or whatever. I wouldn't want to judge anybody for their appearance, but why would anybody dress like this woman? She literally dresses like the Wicked Witch of the West. I mean, not only does she look like a hag who lives in the woods, she dresses like it too. I mean, I don't know when exactly, but America has just become a nation that glorifies ugliness and entropy. I was idly browsing Twitter the other day, and it had a picture of an American beach, the same beach, 1970 versus 2021. In the 1971, everybody is slim and trim and healthy looking. Now, granted, they were all probably chain smoking since it was the 70s, but still. In 2021, it's just these beached whales on the beach. Amazing how a country could be totally destroyed in 50 years. Fantasy worlds and Disney girls, I'm going back. Oh, God, I wish I couldn't go back. And honestly, I don't even know where to start fixing this situation. I mean, other than a violent purge of the FDA. I mean, what? Kidding, Susan. Authoritarian governments do have the edge in one respect. Let's call them deconstructionist improvements. Improvements that can be solved by removing bad actors. America has a severe problem with opiate addiction. China, Red China, literally fixed the opium problem in one day. In theory, America's addiction to corn syrup could also be solved with similarly drastic measures. I'm just saying. Now, of course, morally and philosophically, uh, I most often advocate for proper democratic processes. But I'm just saying that problems like the FDA and the military industrial complex could be solved with a couple of very strategically placed hand grenades. I'm just saying. I am a man of peace, Susie Q. Ponythroat says, uh, baby formula designed to poison the bodies of the children before the public school system destroys their mind. Yes, yes, we all know that's true. Anyway, speaking of food problems, Sri Lanka is going absolutely bonkers. Sri Bonk, Bonka. Sounded better in my head. But yeah, seriously, people are rioting in the streets, breaking into rich people's homes. More than 200 people have died already. So what happened in Sri Lanka? The Kandians decided to convert their entire country to organic farming. As you might expect, shit really sucked. Their food production plummeted after they'd worked so hard to obtain food security in the last decade. And it really is a great accomplishment. They went from like starvation to like a middle economy, or like a mid-range economy. So it was a great accomplishment for Sri Lanka. And then this pretty much tanked it like immediately. I mean, they were repeatedly warned by agronomists that organic farming would not match the production you get with nitrogen fertilizers. I mean, look, organic farming is great, but not on a national scale. If you want organic produce, you got to grow it yourself. Let the people who live off farming use whatever methods they need to maximize their crop yield so they can make money. I mean, like, look, if you want to be an organic farmer, you want to have your own, like, plot of land and grow your vegetables and fruits and stuff, that's great. But there's something so incredibly entitled about forcing some impoverished third world country to do your organic farming for you. Yeah, I don't blame the good people of Sri Lanka for being a little angry. And don't think for a second this couldn't happen in this country. I mean, granted, the fatties in this country could live off their stored fat reserves for a few weeks, but once that goes away, they would be rioting just the same. As much as I am loath to quote Vladimir Lenin, every society is 3 square meals away from chaos. Stock your larders, people. It's going to be a long, hot summer. Okay, Rick says he's imagining the raid scene from Robocop. Instead of drugs, the white powder is salt and sugar. Yeah, I mean, as I've said, I have like at least a few months worth of food in my pantry, so you know I'm I'm not super worried. I mean, if I ration it, I could probably get like maybe 6 or 7 months out of it. So I'm a little better off than some other people, and hopefully all like the worst people will die off before my food runs out. Anyway, speaking of misery for the rest of the year, monkeypox comes to America, and also the UK and the Iberian Peninsula and Canada. Did you stop worrying about COVID? Well, get ready for the monkeypox. At least it doesn't transmit in the air. It's got to be bodily fluid contact. God forbid the people stop worrying and start living normal lives. Got to bring in the monkeypox. Ponythroat says, fun fact, modern explosives can be used as fertilizer, and vice versa, actually. So anyway, remember how I was talking about hyenas earlier? Well, guess why I'm bringing them up again? And the worst possible reason why? Okay. I recently read an article about a trans man giving birth through her fake tubesteak, which ruptured like a microwave hot dog. Well, hyenas do it. Yes. Female hyenas do give birth through their engorged lady parts, their pseudo penises. Remind me, what did Nikola Tesla say about man-made horrors beyond my comprehension? Tesla was right. Okay, again, I want to make something very clear. I'm not saying you can't have a gender reassignment surgery. That is your right to do so. It is your body. Again, I'm not saying I would not legally mandate that you can't do this. I mean, if you want to do this, you have every right to do it. You have a right to mutilate yourself into some kind of grotesque Frankensteinian abomination as you see fit. But I also have a constitutional right to recoil and be violently ill. Ponythroat asks about monkeypox. It's actually it's a type of pox. It's related to cowpox, smallpox, chickenpox, all that such. Let me do a little bit of research here. Let me look up where monkeypox comes from. Okay, monkeypox is often spread by handling bushmeat, animal bites and scratches, contact with an infected person. Well, I mean, it does come from Africa and normally circulates amongst the rodents in Africa. And yes, this recent monkeypox outbreak represents the first instance of widespread transmission outside of Africa. Now, I have also read some articles about this being primarily being passed around by gay men, which I'm sure is a complete coincidence. I mean, nothing at all could happen with massive amounts of anonymous sex. I just it's a complete coincidence. Okay, Ponythroat says Arabic slave traders and Italian orchestra managers gave gender affirming surgery to people all the time. Yes, they did. It was also a thing in Imperial China as well. Anyway, back to our wonderful LGBT people. Oh, and by the way, I was looking at before I get to what I was going to say, I have something I saw just this morning actually. Guess how many LGBTQIA plus, 2S, XYZ, whatever awareness dates there are? Let's go down the list, shall we? In February, all month, it's LGBT plus History Month. So, screw black people, I guess. But also in February the 17th, the Aromantic Spectrum Awareness Week. No, it's funny. I could have sworn that the asexuals did everything they could to not be noticed by people. March, all month, Bisexual Health Awareness Month. The 1st of March, Zero Discrimination Day. the 31st, International Transgender Day of Visibility. April 26th, International Lesbian Visibility Day. May 8th, Asexual Visibility Day. May 17th, International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia. The 22nd, Harvey Milk Day. 24th, Pansexual Visibility Day. June, all month, Pride Month. June 12th, the Pulse Shooting Remembrance Day. 28th, Stonewall Riot Anniversary. July 6th, Omnisexual Visibility Day. July 14th, International Non-Binary Day. July 16th, International Drag Day. August 14th, Gay Uncles Day. Are they just making things up now? September 23rd, Bisexual Visibility Day. October 8th, International Lesbian Day. October 11th, National Coming Out Day. October 20th, International Pronoun Day. October 21st, Spirit Day. October 26th, Intersexual Awareness Day. November 7th, Transgender Parent Day. November 8th, Intersexual Day of Remembrance. November 20th, Transgender Day of Remembrance. December 1st, World AIDS Day. December 8th, Pansexual Pride Day. And December 10th, Human Rights Day. A couple of things I want to note about this list. First of all, there's no explicitly gay visibility day. I guess gay men are exuberant enough to not need a day of visibility since they're making themselves noticed every day. Secondly, were you aware that so much of the year, I should say, was dedicated to non-heteronormative sexual activity? Let's count the days, shall we? Okay, so we have all month February and March, so that's 60. Then all June, that's 90. Okay, so that's 90 days. Now we have April 26, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 5, 6, 7, 8. 112 days of the year are dedicated to non-heteronormative activity. Jesus, it's almost half the year. Okay, I've said repeatedly, I have nothing against the gays or the transgenders or anybody else. It's your body. You can do what you want with it. You can have sex with whoever you want as long as they're a consenting adult. I get that. But, this is a little ridiculous, isn't it? How many goddamn days do you need? How egotistical are you that, you need to dedicate half the year to talking about where you want to stick your wiener? Jesus. Okay. Ponythroat says, I thought the Atlantic slave trade was the first time the monkeypox spread out of Africa in large numbers and has been endemic ever since. Well, I don't think so. Monkeypox was first identified in 1958, so that's not happening. So yeah, my rough calculation of this calendar is that 112 days of the year is dedicated to the gays. Not even the gays, it's all the weird spectrum people. Just keep on slapping more colors onto that terrible flag, which, again, I have nothing against the gays or nothing against, non cisgender heterosexual people, but that is the ugliest damn flag I've ever seen. I'm sorry. I thought you people were supposed to be creative and artsy and stuff. You can't design a better flag. What even is half this stuff? What is an omnisexual? What the hell is Gay Uncle Day? I'm losing my mind here. And I also read that churches in Florida are now having drag shows and forbidden queer literature. The church. Man-made horror beyond my comprehension. Yes, pony throat. I got that. You're referring to AIDS, or yeah, it's I'm getting it. Pony throats. I don't want to offend little Susie Q. Okay, I'm not religious at all. I mean, as I've discussed, but there's something inherently distasteful I find about a drag review going on inside a church. And no, leftists, spare me the talk of Jesus was a queer brown person. I don't know where they're getting that from. I mean, a brown person, yeah, probably. I mean, he was from Judea, but queer? I'm sorry. Where are you pulling this from? Like I said, I'm not religious, but I do own both the New and the Old Testaments. I don't recall anything that would allude to Jesus going for a bit of the rump wrangling. Go and sin no more. Again, there's something really distasteful and disrespectful, even at a secular level, about people who hate the church going, well, the Bible supports everything I do, so deal with it. And they go on to cite extremely spurious examples. I've always said that religion should essentially be a stern but loving father figure who does love the children of God, but also tells you to cut the crap out when you fuck up. And of course, when I say religion, I mean the actual holy text, not the money grubbers. I have little truck with the organized group parts of religion. Okay, Twitter silliness. Let's end with something light. Some dillweed Twitter account named Alpha Masculinity wrote what might be one of the dumbest threads I've ever read about why women shouldn't ride horses or bicycles because they could get orgasm. That's bad. Okay, Valentinus of the Forest says this sounds like weird mystery cults into the fall of the Roman Empire. What are you talking about? Drag reviews in the church? Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, I bring up this alpha masculinity guy because the lefties are being their usual selves, but don't think that the rightists are being any more sensible because they're not. And I quote this guy: "Every inch of a woman is sexual." I mean, I guess this is where that whole white Sharia thing came from. I mean, look, yeah. Do people occasionally have orgasms from, horses or bicycle seats? Yeah, sometimes. I mean, yeah, that's how friction works, you geek. I mean, I've dated equestriennes and girls who ride horses. They'll tell you it's not uncommon for a young girl to have her hymen broken by the saddle. I mean, hell, even a show as geeky as Mystery Science Theater 3000 made a joke about bicycle seats causing a guy to orgasm. But I mean, it doesn't happen every time. I don't think women ride bikes or horses just to get off. He's like, a bike and a horse is basically a giant clitoral massager. How much of a sheltered weenie are you? How the hell does a guy like Joel Hodgson, a guy who literally made a puppet show about riffing on 50s B movies, how is he more sexually experienced than a guy named Alpha Masculinity? Wait, or what was that Joel or was that Mike? Give me 1 second here. Let's see. Yes, it was Joel. They were riffing the castle of Fu Manchu, and he made a joke about it was like, you came early. It's like, well, I didn't mean to, but the bicycle covers. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I should point out that both Joel Hodgson and Mike Nelson are both happily married men. Just FYI. Alpha masculinity goes on. The horse. This is a direct quote, mind you. The horse is very large, strong, muscled, powerful, and yes, packing. It acts as a sort of masculine figure women fall in love with and they're sexually attracted to. Women are not sexually attracted to horses. Like, hello? I mean, god damn, this is yet another example of right wing dweeb who has no experience with women tries to talk about women. Can we, I mean, as somebody who does lean a little bit that way politically, like, I mean, right wing, not sexless dweeb, of course. Can we please stop making these people, these kinds of like trad males, are really the equivalent of the leftists who are like, gender isn't real. We can just make men into women and women into men and puberty blockers. They'll have no adverse effects on the children. Yeah, by the way, prepubescent children that get on the trans juice, yeah, like literally none of them will ever achieve orgasm. Oh, that feeling when you chemically castrate yourself. Wink. I mean, these guys, like these stupid guys, like they're like, do women really orgasm or they just like pee on themselves? Like these are basically the equivalent of those militant feminists who are like, why are men attracted to thin, youthful women? It must be social constructs. Like, they couldn't possibly be attracted to those women for real. It's the exact same thing. Like those stupid trad men are just the equivalent of those like dumpy feminists who don't understand how sex works. Like, can we just sit these people down and like give them the birds and the bees talk? Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, there's way too much sexual incompetence going around. I mean, you know what I think it is? I think it's just that like men and women, or even like boys and girls, they don't interact with each other. Like, not even like in a platonic sense. I mean, like, I've said it before and I've said it again. Like, I was a sexless dweeb until I was 20 years old. But like, I had female friends, I have like female cousins and stuff. So I did platonically interact with girls as a child. And I feel like, honestly, if I didn't have that, I would probably be some like whiny incel, like, talking about like, the mysteries of woman today. Like, like even like, not, I mean, obviously it's good to like, be sexually active and stuff and, get girls, but even like non-sexual interaction with the opposite sex is good just so you know, view them as just normal people. So these like mysterious like entities that, no one could possibly understand. Pony Throat says women are not sexually attracted to horses. Speak for yourself, Larsen. Like I said, I mean, occasionally a woman will orgasm from clitoral stimulation from the horse saddle, but I really don't think like women are like making love to their horses coitally. I mean, pretty sure that would break something off, to be honest. Yeah, at least alpha masculinity acknowledges that women are capable of orgasm, which is more than I can say for some idiots on the internet. Like I did that whole video the other day. I'm not the other day. It was like a couple months ago about like, no, the women don't enjoy sex. They're women don't orgasm. There's way too many guys who say that, and yeah, I'm gonna repeat. If you feel that women don't enjoy sex, they just don't enjoy sex with you. They enjoy sex with me. I mean, when they're with me, women, they're rip roaring to go. They'll go like, two, three, four, five times. And yeah, again, I'm not the first person to say this, but it really is like me, a man. I'm like, can we just like cuddle and talk? I'm tired. Okay, obviously this is not something you can ever actually do, but if let's just assume hypothetically that I became like the god emperor of the universe, I would pass a law saying that no man can write about women without having made at least one woman orgasm. Now, I certainly have my license to write about women. Can you say the same? I know alpha masculinity certainly can't. Okay, Ponythroat says, as a horse, he respectfully disagrees. Yeah, well, whatever LARPing you want to do, like that's your business, buddy. All right, so with that, my prepared remarks are done. So, if anybody has anything to say, you have 30 minutes to say it, because after that, I've got to teach some saxophone lessons and then piano lessons. Okay, let's see what we got here. Alpha Marie says, I pretend to be an octopus man on Twitter because I like F-Zero. Well, that's good for you. I mean, I always liked Captain Falcon myself, and that Goro guy, he was cool. Okay, Ponythroat says, I wrote a Conan the Barbarian deconstruction short story and posted on Reddit. Review? Yes, I will read it, certainly. I won't review it today, but I'll review it next week. So, yeah, post the link and I will read it. Okay, it doesn't seem like anybody else has anything to say. So, for Larsen Halleck, I'm Larsen Halleck. I will see you next week.